Senate will come to order.
The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators. Good morning, guests. The senators and all in attendance, please stand if you are able. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Michael Sessoms of Little Union Baptist Church in Dumfries. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our very own Senate page, Tass Vogel of Upperville.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. God, our refuge and strength, give us reverence for your greatness. We invoke your presence in this place and space. May our all for you lead us to do what is right. May our all for you cause this Senate body to put away partisan politics and be advocates for the least of these. May our all for you lead this Senate body to give voice to those who have no voice. May our all for you lead this Senate body to promote compromise. May our all for you lead this Senate body to decriminalize mental health. May our all for you lead this Senate body to create a more equitable justice system. May our all for you lead this Senate body to create more accessible homes for working families. May our all for you lead this Senate body to remember that we are here to represent their constituents and not necessarily themselves. May our all for you lead this Senate body to remember our children who should have the right to attend schools that are safe from gun violence. May our all for you lead this Senate body to remember that we are all created by you for your glory. There is no race that is supreme over others, and that we ought to be a state that welcomes the stranger and the immigrant. For the scripture tells us, do not forget to entertain strangers, for some have entertained angels unaware. Let us not forget that the Son of God was also an immigrant because his mother and father was forced to leave Nazareth and was born in Bethlehem. So bless these public officials. Let them never forget the oath that they have taken. For you have ordained government so that there would be order and less chaos. Allow our all for you to remember that this Senate body are your servants. Help them to submit to your plans, expecting you to direct their paths. Lord, give them the wisdom to choose simplicity, refusing to make life more complicated than it needs to be. Sustain this Senate body with your peace. We glorify your name. Amen and amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, January 18, 2023.
Senate will come to order. The senator from Charlottesville, Senator Deeds, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 2, Rule 36, 1.
Ayes 33, noes 2, Rule 36, 1. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 4.
Ayes 34, noes 4. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, Madam President.
At this time, we let it be noted that Aaron R. Rouse took and subscribed the oath prescribed by law on January 18th, 2023 at 1:45 p.m. The oath and the certificate of election have been referred to the Committee on Privileges and Elections. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Hampton, Senator Locke, for the purpose of making a presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to make some remarks.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, Senator Aaron R. Rouse currently represents State Senate District 7, which includes parts of the cities of Virginia Beach and Norfolk. Aaron was born and raised in Virginia Beach. He attended First Colonial High School and graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology from Virginia Tech. Aaron was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 2007 NFL Draft and also played for the New York Giants and the Arizona Cardinals. After retiring from the National Football League, he returned to his home in Virginia Beach to begin his career in public service. He served as a coach and a mentor before founding Rouse's House, a nonprofit organization that serves to establish education as the foundation for today's youth, with the primary goal of exposing youth and families in the community to a broader world of learning. On November 6, 2018, he was elected to the Virginia Council as an at-large member. On January 10, 2023, Aaron was elected to the Virginia State Senate. He enjoys outdoor activities and currently resides in the heart of Virginia Beach with his wife, Virginia Beach Councilwoman Jennifer Valentine Rouse, and his son and daughter. It is my esteemed honor to welcome Aaron to the floor of the Senate of Virginia as our colleague.
At this time, one of our favorite times, we will now hear about our visitors in the gallery. We thank you for coming, and what will happen is your senator will officially recognize you, and then I will give a few remarks, and we will applaud after that time. And so let me first call on Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This morning we had the privilege of having our Pastor Michael Sessoms do the morning prayer for us. And Pastor Sessoms is a native of Portsmouth, Virginia, for at least a couple of the members here, just for awareness. And he's the pastor of Little Union Baptist Church in Dumfries, Virginia, that's celebrating 120 years of serving the community. So we're excited about that. Pastor Sessoms received a Bachelor of Science in Religion from Liberty University in Lynchburg, his Master's of Science degree in Emergency Disaster Management from the School of Health Sciences at Trident University, and his Master's of Divinity and Master's of Christian Education from the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union University. Pastor Sessoms is a retired Army veteran with over 20 years of honorable service during his military career. He pastored Corinthian Baptist Church in Fairbanks, Alaska, the Philippi Baptist Church in Hampton, Virginia, and also ministered the gospel in Germany, Iraq, and Seoul, Korea. He's accompanied today by members of the congregation and his lovely wife, Pamela. And so, Madam President, please provide them with the warm welcome of the Senate.
Please rise. Thank you so very much for coming. And Pastor, you have a degree in, an earthly degree in disaster management, but also a heavenly degree in disaster management as well. And because we sure can make a disaster of our lives and need a way back. So thank you for all you're doing in the community. And thank you, members of his family and his church, for what you do as well. And thank you for your service to your country in the military. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair now calls on Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
I would like to recognize in the gallery today members of the American Association of University Women, AAUW, who are visiting as part of their annual State Lobby Day. AAUW is the nation's leading voice promoting equity and education for women and girls. Since 1881, AAUW members have examined and taken positions on the fundamental issues of the day: education, social, economic, and political. AAUW continues to advance equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, philanthropic, and research. Since its founding, AAUW has awarded more than $100 million in fellowships, grants, and awards. The first AAUW branch in Virginia was established here in Richmond in 1909. In 1925, delegates from branches around the state gathered in Williamsburg to establish the Virginia State Division, which today has grown to 24 branches and more than 1,000 members and supporters in the Commonwealth. AAUW members have been meeting today with lawmakers on a variety of issues, including reproductive rights, economic security for women and families, and at the core of their priorities, high-quality public education for all. I applaud AAUW of Virginia members for the important contributions they make to our Commonwealth. And Madam President and members of the Senate, I would appreciate very much if you would extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Please rise. Thank you very much for coming to see your Senate in action. And thank you very much for representing us well. Thank you for continuing the traditions so that we women will continue to take our place in society, our rightful place. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise for two introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Joining us in the gallery today, well, I should say I received a green sheet. It says the name of the introduction is City of Alexandria. And rather than introduce the entire city, I'm going to introduce two of our leaders who I know are in the gallery today. First, we have a former Page member from the class of '93. 30 years later, he's continued his accomplishments in his second term as mayor of Alexandria, Justin Wilson. He is a member of what some call the Proud Nerd School of Governing, and he has led my home city through the pandemic and economic tribulations, emerging as a vibrant community poised for even greater success. Mayor Wilson has brought major investments in affordable housing, transit, and is planning a new hospital for our city. And joining him in the gallery is our city manager, James Parajon. Jim is celebrating his one-year anniversary as city manager, and he has more than 3 decades of experience in local government, and he's been a stalwart manager for our city and paved the way for better, more equitable transit, increased affordable housing development, and continuing our role as an economic hub in this great Commonwealth. So I'd ask that you please offer them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Please stand. Well, thank you for coming back, Mr. Page, or I should say, the Honorable Mayor Wilson. And Mr. City Manager, thank you for coming as well. I know that your job can sometimes be thankless, but somebody's got to do it. But thank you for hanging in there. 30 decades, is that right, of doing it? Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate for their service. Chair now recognizes Senator Donovan, the gentlelady from Enrico.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Good afternoon. The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Today in the gallery, I hope we will welcome some friends of mine from Hanover. Through the Montpelier Center for Arts and Education, we have Ryan, Carla Vivian, and their daughter Gracelyn Cox here today, touring the Capitol, learning about the process as a family. We're so happy to have them. Please give them the warm welcome of the Senate, Madam President.
Please stand. There you are. Thank you for coming. And I hear that you've taken the tour of the whole Capitol, and that's wonderful because so much rich history here. And I'm sure you've already discovered that our house was the first house, and then came the White House. So thank you, and continue your learning. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Mason, the gentleman from Williamsburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's a special privilege for me today to have the opportunity to welcome the Alzheimer's Association of Virginia for their Day on the Hill. And it's special to recognize a group that does so much for our senior population on what is my father's 87th birthday. Because we know that they work with over 150,000 people over 65 years old in Virginia alone that have some form of Alzheimer's and dementia. Unfortunately, it's not just our senior population. I know myself have 2 friends and know several more whose families have suffered from early onset of Alzheimer's, and 350,000 people in Virginia are providing care for these folks. So our work in public policy and trying to accentuate and help the folks that do so much for us, we know our gerontologists and geriatricians are in painfully short supply. So the work that these groups do, helped by us here with our policy, I think deserve our thanks and our praise. And Madam President, I hope you and our colleagues will give them our warm welcome.
Please rise. We thank you for what you're doing. I've heard it said that sometimes the disease of Alzheimer's is the worst of all because your family slowly does not recognize you. And I recall that in my own grandmother. But thank you for what you do because all of us must pass that way. So, Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for 2 introductions, please.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. In the gallery, we have members of the Civic Leadership Institute visiting us today. Civic Leadership Institute has served the Hampton Roads community for over 25 years with a mission to connect executive-level leaders to improve life in Hampton Roads. Civic's programming provides a deep understanding of the region's intricate and complex issues and is a critical organization contributing to the economic success of Hampton Roads, providing an intentionally built talent pipeline of leadership, creating collaborative partnerships, and developing deep connectivity across Hampton Roads. Civic's alumni are a key part of the region's success stories, with many individuals serving on regional, statewide, and national boards, commissions, authorities, and elected office. Madam President, I am a Civic alum. Please join me in welcoming the Civic Leadership Institute to the Senate.
Please rise if you are here. Well, we thank them for being a part of that Civic Leadership Institute because it is a volunteer. It is a volunteer organization, and it's a sacrifice. And so we thank them for that. Senator Locke.
Madam President, also in the gallery, you have members of Birth in Color RVA visiting with us today. Birth in Color RVA is a community-based organization and doula collective committed to reproductive and maternal justice. The doula collective is made up of almost 100 doulas in the state of Virginia who are culturally trained birth and postpartum support professionals, a third of whom are licensed Medicaid providers. Doulas work tirelessly in our communities to ensure that every patient has the prenatal, birth, and postpartum experience they deserve. Please join me in welcoming Birth in Color RVA to the Senate.
Please rise if you are here. There you are. We thank you for what you do, and you know that some of us, we had met over the summer to understand exactly what we could do to help ensure that we have more doulas, and we'll continue that fight. Thank you again. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Hanger, the gentleman from Augusta.
Thank you, Madam President. I recognize for purposes of an introduction.
Yes, Senator, I almost didn't recognize you.
I wondered if you were going to recognize me sitting here. I'm not the senator from Mecklenburg. I have moved away from my seat, which would be regarded as more prestigious, which I've occupied for a number of years on the center aisle. But I've already discovered that I'm closer to the food, so I'm in good shape here.
Yes, sir. The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I'm pleased to have you recognize a group that has worked these halls for many years, the ARC of Virginia. They have a tremendous mission to do in advocacy for our citizens with developmental disabilities, making sure we're aware, provide appropriate services and funding for those individuals. And I'll use this moment to call attention to the fact that we are trying to get additional money into that for additional waivers, but we have to recognize that in order for those waivers really to be delivering services, we've got to fund the appropriations for training, recruiting, and putting and contracting for services on the ground so that we can actually get the work done, provide those services, as opposed to just authorizing a number. Madam President, I hope you will now express the greetings and the warm greetings of the Senate for this advocacy group.
Please rise. Welcome to your Senate, and thank you for continuing to fight so that we can ensure that all citizens receive the services that they deserve. And if not for you, then who? So, senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today in the gallery, we have a group of leaders who represent the maternal health programs from agencies across the Commonwealth, including CHIP, Family Lifeline, Northern Virginia, Family Services, Humankind, and more. And they are led by the Families Forward of Virginia and their CEO, Jamia Crockett. Together, they have over 160 parents and staff who are attending Maternal Health Home Visiting Day today in and around Capitol Square, and they are advocating for strengthening Virginia's families with better parenting education and support services. We all know that it takes a village to raise a family, and that's what Virginia's maternal health home visiting programs do all across the Commonwealth. And Madam President, I ask that we offer the warm welcome of the Senate.
Please rise. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for what you do. Yesterday, we had the midwives, and today we had the doulas, and we have you now. And this is wonderful to see a continuing reminder about the necessity for maternal health. And just thank you for being in that space and continuing to do what you do. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair now calls on Senator Marsden, the gentleman from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, I'd like to recognize in the gallery some hardworking young people from Y Street.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Of Y Street, the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth's award-winning youth-led volunteer group. They're here today to help promote Virginia Healthy Youth Day. As a member of the Board of Trustees for the Virginia Foundation of Healthy Youth, I'm proud to welcome these high school students who volunteer their time across Virginia on projects to improve the health of all Virginians. The Virginia Foundation of Healthy Youth empowers Virginia's youth to make healthy choices by reducing and preventing youth tobacco use, substance abuse, and childhood obesity. Established by a resolution of the General Assembly, Virginia Healthy Youth Day is an annual event hosted by the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth and promotes healthy lifestyles for young people, including not using tobacco products and e-cigarettes. And I want to add, Madam President, that today we have reduced youth smoking from somewhere in the 20-some% down to 2.8% of our high school youths are smoking, and in great part due to the efforts of these young people and the staff at the Virginia Healthy Youth Foundation, led by their director, Marty Kilgore. And I'd ask that you give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Please stand. Well, hello to you. Many times, as you know, you don't listen to us, the adults, you listen to your own peers. And it is so wonderful that you've taken this step to try to ensure that we can get our health together while we're still young, so that when we're older, we won't regret. Thank you for doing what you do, because it's not something you have to do. It's a choice that you've made to help others. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Resolutions, petitions, and bills are now in order. Hearing none, the chair now recognizes the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke, for the purpose of presenting the committee nominations report.
Thank you, Madam President. I have sent to the clerk's desk the committee nominations report on the Senate standing committees.
The clerk will read the report.
2023 Senate Standing Committees. Education and Health. Lucas, Chair. Saslaw, Howe, Newman, Locke, Barker, Peterson, Cosgrove, Donovan, Suderline, Peake, Edwards, Hashmi, Pillion, McPike. General Laws and Technology. Senator Eben, Chair. Roth, Locke, Baker, Vogel, Reeves, McPike, Donovan, Mason, Boysko, Stewart, Pillion, Bell, Hashmi, and Rouse. Local Government. Senator Lewis, Chair. Hanger, Stanley, Favola, DeStuff, Donovan, McPike, Howe, Spruill, Morrissey, Bell, Hashmi, Reeves, Hackworth, and Rouse. Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senator Favola, Chair. Hanger, Locke, McDougall, Reeves, Cosgrove, Surville, DeStuff, McPike, Spruill, Mason, Boysko, Morrissey, Pillion, and Rouse. Transportation. Senator Marston, Chair. Newman, Favola, Cosgrove, DeStuff, Suderline, McClellan, Peake, Boysko, Obenshain, Saraville, McPike, Spruill, Pillion, and Rouse.
The chair recognizes the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee nominations report be adopted.
The question is, shall the report be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the report will record their votes aye, those opposed no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The committee nominations report is adopted. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, January 19th, 2023. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on third reading.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 1 through 5, that's Senate Bill 783 through Senate Bill 1246, be placed on their final passage in a block. And any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 5, Senate Bill 783 through Senate Bill 1246, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 783, Senate Bill 799, Senate Bill 801, Senate Bill 812, Senate Bill 814, Senate Bill 956, Senate Bill 1061, Senate Bill 1187, Senate Bill 1246.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 807, a bill relating to local parks, walking trails, liability property owners.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the gentlelady from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that this bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. This bill does two things. It grants localities the authority to create a system of walking trails. They can already create a system for hiking and horseback riding and bicycle trails, so this adds walking trails to that authority. And secondly, it allows private landowners to provide a public easement over their land if they happen to be adjacent to a walking trail and the trail should expand, or the county wants to make some connection between a walking trail on one east or west and they have a missing part, a private landowner could provide a public easement. And I do want to add that this bill would limit the liability to just what you would say nuisance liabilities. It does not provide the landowner protection from gross negligence or willful misconduct. I think this is a great bill. It allows especially our urban areas to really connect our walking trails. It provides great recreation. This is something that one of my jurisdictions came forward with. I certainly hope it is the will of the body to adopt this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 835, a bill relating to prohibited sales and loans to juveniles, definition of sexual conduct.
Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Saraville.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So Senate Bill 835 basically deals with the definition of sexual conduct for purposes of what I would call the state's dirty books statute. There's a provision in the criminal code that makes it a misdemeanor to give certain books or publications to juveniles to either sell them or loan them. It also has a bunch of regulations about how to display books that contain depictions of nudity or sexual conduct. And the problem with the current statute is that included in the definition of sexual conduct is simply homosexuality, not homosexual acts or homosexual sexual behavior, but just homosexuality. So in other words, right now, it's a crime to give somebody, a juvenile, a book that simply depicts or talks about, for example, a homosexual couple. And that's not sexual conduct. I think it's a definition that's rooted in sort of some very outdated notions and archaic notions, to be honest, about gender, not gender, but about sexual conduct. And it came to light, I think, in the governor's education standards that came out recently. I appreciate the senator from Henrico. She carried a similar bill, which was wrapped into this. She's now the chief co-patron of this. We have bipartisan support for it on both sides of this building, and I would hope the bill pass.
Chair recognizes Senator Donovan, gentlelady from Henrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I did propose a similar bill because the language in our code is important and it is used thoughtfully, and there is this is an inappropriate word to have in the code to speak to sexual act. You know, homosexuality is an attraction. It is not a sexual act. I think it was in the code from a long time ago, and this is a really good way to be very clear with what our intent is and not in any way, misuse language where it's so important in the code. So I hope you'll support this bill. Thank you very much.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 12.
Ayes 25, noes 12. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 873, a bill relating to family abuse protective orders filed on behalf of minors.
Chair recognizes Senator McDougall, gentleman from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, this bill deals with who can file for a preliminary protective order in the case where a child has been the victim of family abuse. The situation came about because the code currently says that if the child is victim of family abuse and a criminal action has occurred, then the law enforcement officer can file for the emergency protective order, which, as members know, is 3 days, 72 hours, or the next day court is in session. The issue becomes that oftentimes the victim, the perpetrator, is the parent, and the parent is the only other person who can apply, or the person that's next of kin can apply for the preliminary protective order. So a child can have be the victim of a criminal offense and not be able to file for that preliminary protective order because there's no person in that role. This would just allow the court the ability to have time to appoint a guardian ad litem, that guardian then be able to represent the child, but they still be protected for that additional 14 days with the preliminary protective order. With that, Madam President, I renew the motion that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 958, a bill relating to writs of actual innocence.
Senator Stewart, the gentleman from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the bill pass. And speaking to it.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, this bill originally was a considerable overhaul of the writs of actual innocence that we changed in, I guess it was 2020. What it now is, after it was significantly amended by the Courts Committee, it just requires the AG to provide written notice to Commonwealth's attorneys when the AG intends to support an exoneration. It requires the AG to notify the victim of any evidentiary hearing or oral agreement in an actual innocence case. And it also does allow the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court of Appeals, to summarily dismiss petitions if an individual has continued to file a petition time after time that was essentially frivolous. So that is all that remains of the bill, and I hope you'll support it.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 974. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on second reading.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 7 through 9, that's Senate Bill 974 through SB 1131, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 7 through 9, Senate Bill 974 through Senate Bill 1131 be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 974, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Peake, the gentleman from Lynchburg.
Well,
974, it's in the block.
I understand. I was going to move the amendments. I moved the committee amendments. You're not putting them up on the board. Why are y'all playing this trick on me, madam? There we go. I moved the committee amendments, Madam President.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to?
There we go. Gotcha, yes.
Senators, there's a lot of chattering, please. The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1000, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 1011, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move that the amendment be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be adopted? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is adopted.
Senate Bill 1086, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1123, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 1126, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 1131, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 888, a bill relating to consecutive terms of imprisonment, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond, Senator Morrissey.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
Madam President, speaking to Senate Bill 888.
No, you're just engrossing and advancing.
Yeah, I know. And I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Yes, sir. The question is, shall Senate Bill 888 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 986, a bill relating to corporations, filing, and meeting requirements, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Chair recognizes the senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm ready this time. I ask that this bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1037, a bill relating to workers' compensation notice to employees. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1112, a bill relating to health insurance coverage for prescription contraceptives. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendars, that's pages 11 through 14, Senate Bill 867 through Senate Bill 1408, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 11 through 14, Senate Bill 867 through Senate Bill 1408, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that those said bills now go by for the day.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Memorial resolutions. Regular calendar. Senate Joint Resolutions on first reading. Senate Joint Resolution 226, proposing an amendment to Section 9 of Article 7 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to local government sale of property, authority to grant perpetual easements to units of government. Memorial resolutions.
Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that the memorial resolutions on pages 15 and 16, that's HJR 463 through SJR 269, be considered in a block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove any of those the resolution from the block do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution.
The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on pages 15 and 16, House Joint Resolution 463 through Senate Joint Resolution 269, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 463, celebrating the life of John Tillman Hazel, Jr. House Joint Resolution 483, celebrating the life of Janet Bennett Martin. House Joint Resolution 492, celebrating the life of the Reverend Dr. Robert L. Pettis, Sr. House Joint Resolution 494, celebrating the life of Perry Lee Briggs, Jr. House Joint Resolution 499, celebrating the life of Richard Wilson. House Joint Resolution 502, celebrating the life of Gunnery Sergeant Francis Jack Weeks, United States Marine Corps, retired. House Joint Resolution 503, celebrating the life of the Reverend Carl Douglas Farmer. House Joint Resolution 504, celebrating the life of Douglas William Rogers. House Joint Resolution 515, celebrating the life of James D. Campbell. House Joint Resolution 536, celebrating the lives of Randall Blevins, Fernando Chavez Barron, Lorenzo Gamble, Tanika Johnson. Senate Joint Resolution.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam President. I respectfully request that HJR 536 come out of the block and by for the day.
Without objection, HJR 536 is out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Joint Resolution 7252, celebrating the life of the Honorable Jane Haycock Woods.
Madam President. Madam Chair. I was say if that could come out of the block, please.
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 252 is out of the block.
Senate Joint Resolution 264, celebrating the life of Buddy Rogers Arrington. Senate Joint Resolution 268, celebrating the life of Radio Man Chief Petty Officer James Delaverson, United States Navy, retired. Senate Joint Resolution 269, celebrating the life of Adarsh Deepak, Ph.D.
The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner, that is, all resolutions except House Joint Resolution 536 and Senate Joint Resolution 252, which are out of the block. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions, please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 252.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. I'll speak briefly to this, and I know there are others that will want to speak to this that we're closely aligned with Jane Woods. And at any rate, I first met Jane when we served together in the House of Delegates. And I would have to say she was the first one that got me some excellent publicity. It was the reconvened session, and I sat behind her on the House floor. Well, the yellow flowers, the daffodils, were blooming in April, and someone had given her a bouquet of them that were sitting on her desk in front of me. Well, I got up in the reconvened session to make an excellent point that will be remembered forever. And that was that I wanted to introduce the students from Bath County that were there visiting that day. Well, they took a picture of Jane admiring her flowers, and I was in the background talking, like as if I was talking about something very important. And so that picture ended up on the front page of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. So I learned right then, it's not sometimes what you do, it's how you're perceived and how you're placed. I further learned that when I was sitting over there where the beside the senior, where the senior citizen Fairfax, where the northern Fairfax senator is sitting, when Warren Barry, that fella, with quite a reputation. And I would sit there, and one day he came, Emmett, you look your best today. We're going to be on the front page of the Washington Post. And I can't remember what it was he did, but it was something outrageous. And and sure enough, they took our picture sitting in there, and we were on the front page of the Washington Post. But to Jane, again, her career there, and as she moved over to the Senate, working with her, particularly as we're still struggling with what to do, but in the aftermath of the Olmstead decision, we set up a commission that Senator Gartland chaired, and Jane and I were on there together working on a lot of things together closely. Of course, then she was Secretary of Health, and we all worked with her then after she moved on to that. And the reason why I guess I ended up with this resolution toward the latter part of her career, she spent a lot of time giving me advice on various issues, and many of you know that I need to take a lot of advice in my relationships here and what I work on and what I don't work on. But her final work, if you will, was for Augusta County. She did some lobbying work for Augusta County. So that's where, in the latter stages after she had fought off the cancer initially, lost her husband, and still was out there fighting the good fight. She was a good source of advice for me, and just someone that I learned to work with and care for dearly. So with that, I certainly will pass it on to other members, particularly the senator from Fairfax City, who represents that area and probably has a lot to say about Jane. But I really appreciated the life she lived and the service she provided to Virginia.
I thank the senator. Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I want to speak a little bit on the Jane Woods, and let me begin by saying—
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Most of you, if not all of you, will think of Jane Woods as a well-known state senator, a member of the House of Delegates, a cabinet secretary, and someone who had a statewide reputation. But for those of us in Fairfax City, we knew Jane as a neighbor. And she was an icon in Fairfax City. I knew her when I was a boy growing up. She lived across the street. And I think of a lot of the women in that era of the 1970s and 1980s, Jane Woods, Phyllis Salak, Marion Tucker, who was Tom Moss's chief of staff, Ellen Brower, Mary Peterson. They were the women that kind of ran the city of Fairfax. And both Republicans and Democrats, they worked together. They had a reputation for independence. They had a reputation for intelligence. And Jane was the gold standard. And it's funny, Jane has always been an idol of mine, which is interesting because she never endorsed me. And early in my career, oftentimes I'd have political opponents that would send her out to debate me because they didn't want to talk to me. But we grew to have a great respect for each other. And, one of my favorite conversations with Jane was about this time last year. I spoke in memorial to Jack Rust, who was another icon of Fairfax City. And I spoke from the heart because we had been pretty bitter rivals when I was running for the House of Delegates, and I grew to have great respect for him. I always did. And Jane came up to me afterwards and let me know how much it meant to the family what I had said. And I saw her at the funeral, and what I did not know was she had cancer and she was desperately ill. And she didn't mention that. In fact, I ended up hearing that from somebody else. And that was Jane Wood. She always put other people first. She was in pain. She was living alone at that time. But rather than focus on herself, she was always talking about, chap, you need to look after this person, or this neighbor needs a helping hand, or talk to the Rust family. And she always put other people first. And, I'm very proud to be from Fairfax City. It's a small community located in Northern Virginia. We stick together. And Jane will always be, in a lot of ways, a role model for me to chase after, someone who had the courage to do what she thought was the right thing again and again, and someone who was well respected for good reason, and someone who was, at the end of the day, a good person, a good Christian, and someone who was a great person of faith. And I would ask that we approve this resolution. Thank you.
The resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolution, please rise. The resolution is agreed to. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Sasselaw.
I move the commending resolutions on pages 17 through 19 that's HJR 465 through SR 91, be considered in a block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
The question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 17 through 19, House Joint Resolution 465 through Senate Resolution 91, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolutions 465, 466, 467.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam President. I respectfully request that HJR 467 come out of the block and by for the day.
Without objection, House Joint Resolution 467 is out of the block and by for the day.
468, 479, 480, 481, 486, 495, 496, 512, 514, 527, Senate Joint Resolutions 238, 244, 260, 262.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Can SJR 260 come out of the block and by for the day, please?
Without objection, SJR 260 is out of the block and by for the day.
262, 263, 265, 266, 267, Senate Resolution 91.
The question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to with the exception of House Joint Resolution 467 and Senate Joint Resolution 260, which are out of the block and by for the day? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolutions are agreed to. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Suderline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a brief moment of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the senator from Augusta for that resolution that he brought that we just agreed to honoring Vivian Cheatham. Vivian Cheatham, in my world, is sort of like Charlie and Charlie's Angels, where I've never met her to my knowledge. But I can tell you there's no one in state government that made me look better to my boss, my constituents, anyone else in all of state government than Vivian Cheatham over and over again. And she was just fantastic person to have working for the taxpayers of Virginia. And I believe that if we had more Vivian Cheathams, we could have a smaller workforce in state government and still get significantly more done. She's just an absolute treasure to the Commonwealth, and I thank the senator from Augusta for giving us the opportunity to honor her.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Thursday, January 19th, the Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Public Education will meet 30 minutes after adjournment, Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Hashmi, Howe, Locke, Donovan, and Peake. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on K through 12 Education will meet at 3 p.m. Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Saslaw, Howell, Norman, Lucas, Newman, and McClellan. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 4 p.m. Committee Room B in Pocahontas. The committee will be hearing budget amendments for non-committee members. The Virginia Legislative Black Caucus will not meet. This is a schedule change. Tomorrow, Friday, January the 20th, the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will meet at 8 a.m. Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Capital Outlay will meet at 8 a.m. in Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Deeds, Norman, Howell, Saslaw, Hanger, and Locke. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health Professions will meet at 8:30 a.m. Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Barker, Saslaw, Newman, Edwards, Lewis, Donovan, Suderline, Pillion, and Hashmi. This is a schedule change. The Committee on Rules will meet at 10 o'clock, Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session, Senate Room 1 of the Capitol, and the Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 2 in the Capitol.
Chair now calls on Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 11 a.m. on tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.